The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger. Chapter 7, Part 12. I ate the 2 Ululu eggs to test the matter, and in a few moments found myself sinking into a most delicious slumber. When I awoke, I saw light where darkness had lately reigned. The way to escape from King Garu's guards was now clear to me. I at once proceeded to save up my Olulu eggs. In a few days they became more plentiful, and it was not long before I had accumulated 2 dozen of them. And now, thought I, if I offer them to my keepers as a feast, their suspicions will be aroused. They will refuse to partake of them, and the whole matter will be laid before the king, and I shall be shorn of the little liberty I have. Therefore, I must use my knowledge of human nature. As each man passed on his rounds, I called him to me and showed him 4 of the Olulu eggs. Said, I like thee. Thou art my favorite. Couldst thou be very close-mouthed? The fellow's eyes sparkled with delight, and I could see that his mouth was watering at the sight of the dainty morsels. Upon his assuring me that he would take good care that no one should know how kind I had been to him, I gave him 4 of the eggs, enough to make him sleep like a log for 3 hours. He bolted them, shells and all. I was much pleased with the working of my plan. The next sentinel, who made his appearance a few moments after the first, was served in the same way. And so on with all the others. Each promised most solemnly never to reveal his good fortune to his comrades. My plan thus far had worked splendidly. In about a quarter of an hour, I had the supreme satisfaction of seeing all 6 of them begin to rub their eyes, then yawn, and stretch their little arms up over their heads in the sleepiest manner possible. In less than half an hour, they were all stretched out on the greensward, snoring like good fellows. Now was my time to act. I sprang toward my bed to empty it of its contents and launch it on the little river which flowed near by, when to my horror I heard the Princess Hoppa Hoppa calling, Little man all head, little man all head. A cold chill crept over me. There she came, hopping toward me like the wind, calling out for me to come and make her laugh. What was I to do? Strike her down? Smother her? Oh no, I could not have harmed that innocent little doll-faced being had it been to save my life from lifelong imprisonment. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning, a bright thought flitted through my brain. I have run, hopped, and stood on one foot, kicked 1 foot high in the air, crossed my legs, etc., to amuse the little princess, but I have never danced for her. If she can find it amusing enough to laugh heartily at such plain old-fashioned antics, she will surely go into convulsions when she sees me dancing a quick-time jig with heels flying in the air. So calling out to her in the gayest manner, I said, Come, little princess, come, little Umilumba, hop this way, be quick, I've something very funny to show you. She didn't wait for a second bidding. With 2 bounds, she was beside me. Bidding her be seated, I began to dance, and she began to laugh. In half a moment, I quickened my step, and she broke out into the wildest merriment. Oh, do stop, little man all head, she gasped. Oh, do stop, or I shall die. I didn't want her to die, but I did want her to fall down into a swoon. So now I let myself out. My legs flashed like sunbeams dancing on the water. Bulger looked on in dignified astonishment. He failed utterly to make out what his little master meant by these furious antics. Indeed, they were furious. Faster and faster my nimble feet beat the ground. Wilder and more uncontrollable became the laughter of little Princess Hoppa Hoppa. The tears coursed down her pretty face. She rocked from side to side. She bent forward and back. Adding still more speed to my movements, I kept my eyes fixed upon her. Victory! The end came at last. She rolled over on the greensward in a swoon. Now or never, I murmured to myself. In quicker time than it takes to tell it, aided by my faithful Bulger, I emptied the bed of its contents, set my shoulder to one end of it, while Bulger fastened his teeth in some fringe that hung from the other, and then, he pulling with might and main, and I pushing with all the desperation of a battle for freedom, the wooden structure was slowly brought to the bank of the river. It was a hard task for us, but we did it. Now down the slippery bank it glided with a rush, striking the water and floating like a duck. In an instant, Bulger and I sprang on board of the little craft. To rig up one of the sheets as a square sail and set it on the pole which had held the curtains was only the work of a few seconds. A stout, long-handled fan served me for a rudder. Away, away! I was off at last. The wind was fresh and strong, and my square sail worked to a charm. At that moment, a shrill, piping voice reached my ear. "Little man all head! Little man all head! Where art thou? Come to me!" The shrill, far-reaching tones of her voice attracted 100 attendants. They seemed fairly to spring up out of the ground. Pell-mell, with a wild rush, the stronger ones, leaping over the heads of the less vigorous ones, they made for the river banks. Alarm bells now sounded on every side. Gongs and strange-sounding horns and rattles called the people to the spot where the little princess had been found lying half unconscious on the greensward. The sight of the half-dozen sentinels stretched out here and there in the deepest sleep, the scattered drapery of my couch, the bed itself missing, all told too plainly the story of my escape. All this time, my snug little craft was making good headway down the river, which grew wider at every 100 feet. With one wild outburst of shrill, angry voices, the Umilumbas turned to pursue the fugitive. Bulger whined piteously as he saw them swarming on the banks. In another moment, they began to leap from one bank to another, passing over our heads in perfect clouds. I knew full well that they would not dare to leap into my boat, but I feared that they might overwhelm us with showers of their little spears. However, I determined to try the effect of one of my pistols on them if their spears annoyed me. King Garoo, beside himself with spiteful anger, now arrived upon the scene and took command of his assembled troops and serving men. First he tried entreaty upon me, offering me princely sums and royal honors if I would only turn back. But I was deaf to his honeyed words, whereupon he fell into a towering passion. He ordered his soldiers to recapture me, dead or alive. A shower of spears whistled through the air. Most of them fell far short of their mark, for the river had now widened so that I was at least 30 feet from the shore, whereon they were standing. But a few of these spearlets fell dangerously near me. Fearing that their points might be poisoned, I determined to try the effect of a pistol shot in the air. The loud report of the firearm and the puff of smoke which followed it filled the Umilumbas with the most abject fear. They threw themselves on their faces and cried out that I was an evil spirit. I could now see that King Garoo had given orders to let me sail away in peace. They made no further attempts to molest me, and yet it was very plain that they were loath to part with the little man all head, for whom their king and the Princess Hapa Hapa had conceived so warm an affection. I, too, felt a wrinkle in my heart as my little boat bore Bulger and me away on the rippling waters of the beautiful river, now grown so wide that I was at least 100 feet from the bank, and the palace of King Garoo began to fade away in the distance. For several miles they followed the banks of the stream, keeping opposite me, and ever and anon sending me a goodbye in a soft and plaintive voice. Straining my eyes, I could see little Princess Hapa Hapa borne aloft on the shoulders of a group of serving men, and waving me a last adieu. Then once more I caught the sound of that shrill baby voice. "Goodbye, goodbye, little man all head. Hapa Hapa says goodbye forever." And so I sailed away from the land of the Umilumbas, the land of the manhoppers. In a few days, the river began to broaden out, and the land of the Umilumbas was left far behind. The moment I caught sight of any signs of human beings on the riverbanks, I steered my staunch little boat into a broad cove, whose sloping shores led to a lofty tableland. Here, with tear moistened eyes, I moored the little craft which had snatched me from a life of keen, though silent, sorrow, and, followed by faithful Bulger, struck out boldly for the interior. After a few weeks' journeying, I entered a country which was now and then traversed by traders. They were astonished to find me traveling all alone by myself, but readily accepted my statement that I had become separated from a troop of traders and that my horse had died. I now made haste to recross India and gain the shores of the Mediterranean, whence I took passage for home, with a joyous heart and a memory well stored with quaint facts and curious recollections. And we'll start on chapter 8 in the next video. I hope you're enjoying the story of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bulger. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now, but not until you like, subscribe, and leave a comment.